Welcome back to Cheyenne Today on 97.5 FM, 1240 AM KFBC. J.D. Harris with you this morning, and we are visiting with Tom Ritter, who is the Public Information Officer for the Chi-Y Amateur Radio Club here in the capital city. And we have Field Day coming up we're going to talk about. Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Pretty good, JD. Thanks for having us down.
Yeah, you bet. We're always glad to talk to you about Field Day and the Ham Radio Club. And before we get into Field Day, let's just talk about the club here, the Chi-Y Amateur Radio Club. It's SHYWY. You guys have a website.
Correct.
And anybody who's interested can go check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a website here. It's SHYWYARC.net. So they can go online and find out everything about the club. Our club's been around several years. We started out in 1932 and been going strong ever since. Right now we've got about 45 active voting members and several other amateurs that are not associated with the club that live here in Cheyenne.
Sure.
So we're a pretty big community, and we invite anybody to check us out. Come down if you're interested in amateur radio. Join us.
Sure. You guys do a lot of public service. You guys, security and helping out with different parades and walks and frontier days and all that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, we're pretty active as far as the community service goes. We do a lot of radio support for Cheyenne Frontier Days.
Sure.
We're on the corners. You'll see us with the radios. We're in direct communications with the communication van, law enforcement, to help them out, kind of maintain the crowd. Also, we do a lot of public service with, like the Walk for Life. We do that here in town. And we do radio support for Laramie County Emergency Management. We also support them as well as the National Weather Service. So there's a lot of things that we're involved in and provide radio support for.
You know, you talked about the National Weather Service. Of course, they've got all the fancy equipment and the computers and the radars and all that, but there's nothing like having a guy parked in the road ditch off of Highway 30 looking at a storm, is there?
Absolutely. No, and that's
and it's fun to do. It's interesting and fun, yeah.
It is fun. The Skywarn program of the National Weather Service is what we're involved with mostly, and that involves if the National Weather Service sees severe weather coming, they will call us up. We go down to the National Weather Service. We actually have a radio station set up there. The operators in the field, or the storm chasers, the Skywarn folks, they'll be in the field watching the sky. If they see anything, they'll report it directly to the National Weather Service. So we're very involved in that.
Yeah, we've had a little excitement already with
Absolutely.
the tornadoes and stuff.
The last couple of years have been very active. Last year we had the tornado out north. This year we've had 2 tornadoes. Unbelievably, around the Laramie area.
Right.
So it's we've been out and we've been spotting. It's a very active time this year.
Yeah. Well, there's good communication and good organization with the Chi-Y Amateur Radio Club. And seriously, if you've ever kicked around the idea of being a ham radio, there's different levels of licensing and that sort of thing. And it doesn't take a lot to get started. The radios are not expensive.
Nope.
You can spend as much as you want.
That's right.
As much as you got.
That's right.
And but to get started, you can get a nice radio for your vehicle for $200.
Right.
And that sort of thing. So.
Absolutely. And it's not hard to get your license. Amateur radio is FCC licensed radio service. So we have to, take a test, but the tests aren't that hard at all. It involves a little bit of knowledge, background on amateur radio, some frequency information you have to know, some rules and regulations.
Sure.
Plenty of study guides to get involved with amateur radio. So the American Radio Relay League which is our flagship organization, has all that information online.
All right. Very easy to do, so check it out. And, of course, if you want to go to the website, you can do that, and then Tom or anybody else in the club will be happy to visit with you.
Sure, absolutely.
Well, let's talk Field Day. That's coming up this weekend, the 23rd and the 24th. Field Day. Well, first of all, let's just find out what is Field Day, what goes on.
Sure. Field Day is probably one of the most anticipated operating events of the year in the amateur radio field. Every year, about 400,000 hams around the U.S. get involved in field day. And what we do is we go out in the field and we set up antennas, set up radio stations, and demonstrate how we would operate in an emergency situation. We use generators, backup power, batteries, portable antennas. And it's a contest, but it's also fun because you get to talk to a lot of other clubs and individuals that are on field day setups around the U.S.
Right.
and around the world. And it pretty much just demonstrates our ability to go out and set up in an emergency situation. And it is a lot of fun. So we're going to be out at the Laramie County Emergency Management this year, starting on Saturday, 23rd. And that'll start at noon. And we're going to be set up in the field just to the south of the building.
Right.
So anybody that wants to come by and see what ham radio is all about, what the emergency operation looks like, be willing to come out and take a look.
Yeah, the frequencies will be lit up. There's going to be a lot of traffic.
Yep, there's going to be a ton of folks on the air. We're not going to be short on making contacts on the air.
Now, you guys are you're going operational. It's 24 hours, right?
Correct. This year it's 24 hours. It's from noon Saturday till noon Sunday. Actually, I think on the website, on the American Radio Relay League, they list 3 p.m. on Sunday.
Okay.
So that's kind of different this year. There's also another event within the event, and it's called the Grid Chase. So this year what we're going to do is people are going to get on the air, and they're going to try to work as many grid squares as you can within that 24-hour period.
Right.
And grid squares are 1 mile squares that the U.S. is made up of. So it's a square of 1 mile, and there's thousands of them. Gazillion of them across the U.S.
Right.
So you're going to see how many grids you can work, and that's going to be another part of the event. Also, we'll be demonstrating digital communications. We'll have some digital out there as well.
The digital's really taken off, hasn't it?
It has. With a lot of the kids these days coming into the hobby, which we want a lot of young influence into the hobby. They're bringing a bunch of the computer skills and the digital skills into amateur radio. And I think it all stems, to coin a phrase, from the STEM programs at school.
Sure.
Science, technology, engineering, and math. But this digital world that we're living in now has really taken off in the amateur radio community too. So you can sit down with a small radio, a laptop or an iPad, or you don't even have to have anything fancy, and you can, as long as you're licensed for that frequency, you can get on the air on digital, one of the digital modes that were authorized,
right,
and talk across the country, and it doesn't take very much power. Minimal power, and you can talk all the way across the country and around the world.
And the audio's good. It sounds like you're talking right next to a guy.
Well, absolutely. And also there's digital modes where you don't even have to talk at all. All you do is type on a keyboard or have a preset verbiage in your software. You just hit a button and you're talking to a guy, and then he talks back, and you hit another button and you're done. It might sound boring, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah. That would be a good. I haven't seen that myself. And I guess I'm a little old. I kind of like the IRLP.
Right.
That's been around a long time.
Yep. And packet radio.
Radio.
Back in those days when it was, and that was the first part of digital for amateur radio back in the late 70s, early 80s,
right,
when people were starting to get into the modems and the digital side of it,
right,
when we were still using 8088 computers,
right,
back in those days.
I remember those.
But it's come a long way since then.
Yeah, very
exciting on the digital side.
So the field day, you can see the digital, you can see, and the old school. I mean, and I'm sorry, you just can't. There's something cool about running 100 watts or 200 watts or something like that, and talking to a guy in somewhere in northern Alaska or whatever, and he's in his cabin up there freezing his tuchus off or something. I mean, there's something cool about that. There really is.
And that's another whole part of it. There will be single sideband voice operation going on as well, and it's very fun. You can get into being from Wyoming. We have a little bit of an advantage because we're almost like a DX station to folks.
Yes.
So you get into a pileup where you have a ton of people calling you, and you could be there for hours on end and making a lot of contacts, which is pretty cool because then it gives you, and if you have a new person that's just getting started in amateur radio, you can give them a real taste of what single sideband and talking on the air is all about.
Right. Tell a quick story here. It's probably been a year or so ago. I was on the air on 20 meters, I think it was. And everything was just right, and we can talk propagation here and atmosphere and all that kind of stuff till the cows come home. But guy answered me from Hawaii, little guy from Hawaii, and he was so excited. He'd been ham radio operator for 30 years and never talked to anybody from Wyoming.
Yeah,
and just like you say about the DX station, almost.
Yep.
And this guy was falling down. He was so happy to talk to somebody from Wyoming.
Wow, there are operators in Wyoming.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we don't have to pedal a bike to get power or nothing.
No,
it's
not
all
here.
cool. But yeah, I mean, and so that was quite an experience, really.
Wow.
And I'm, I've got a license. I'm pretty simple, 100 watts in a wire,
Right.
Which is kind of the easy way to start. But there are ways to get more power. You can get all kinds of antenna farms on people's places, all that kind of stuff. So as much money as you want to spend, you can get what you want.
Absolutely. You can go all the way from a piece of wire and $100 radio to tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars in some of these big contest stations. These guys get really crazy, and they're really adamant about their super stations, they call them.
Yeah.
We thought Ted Turner back in the day had the big superstation, but there's some guys out here that want to rival him. Plus, we have, another facet of this is this hobby brings in a lot of celebrities.
Yeah.
We have Bob Heil, who makes the Heil microphones for a lot of folks. He's on the air. We have Joe Walsh.
From the Eagles?
From the Eagles.
Yep.
WB6ACU, that's Joe.
Yeah.
And he's on the air as much as he can. Of course, he's touring with the Eagles a lot. But we have several celebrities that have been from country music singers to, Barry Goldwater back in the day.
Sure.
So there's, it's all because of the communication and electronics.
Yeah.
And the whole talking with other people.
Yeah. And it's you get, and it's not like you gotta, when you make a contact, you got to spend a half an hour talking with somebody. They want to know where you're at, what kind of equipment you're using, that sort of thing. And then what's been nice visiting with you, and then a week later you might hear them talking to somebody else. You break in, you say hi.
Yep.
It's kind of small talk, but not to say that there's guys from Minnesota that won't talk your leg off about fishing either.
That's right, and they will too.
And they will.
Yeah, either those guys or the guys in South Dakota that want to talk about pheasant hunting all the time.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and it's all about making friendships on the air, and just having fun. It's a fun hobby, and you get to meet people. Mm-hmm. If you say you might have been mic shy at one time. It's a good opportunity to kind of open up a little bit and talk to people.
Yeah.
So it's a good all around hobby, and we really have a good time with it.
There's proper radio procedure, but again, once you identify your station and after that, it's pretty much just a BS session, and that's okay.
Right. Unless you're under emergency comms or something, supporting public service, and that's another facet of it that's very amazing. When Hurricane Maria went through Puerto Rico, the Red Cross actually requested 50 operators to go down to Puerto Rico and set up, which they did, and they did a wonderful job down there. got a lot of publicity out
Sure.
of that. Public service that they went down and provided communication from the stricken island, which had no comms.
Right.
They had
Nothing.
And so they were stationed all over the island, giving reports about the dam, how it was doing. All the emergency communications went back to a central hub, and then that hub was on HF radio over to the States.
I actually monitored a station there, probably that station, and they were sending traffic. Somebody wanted to know how Grandma was, and they were, that kind of emergency stuff, and
Health and welfare.
health and welfare traffic, and
Right.
and people were concerned, and that's part of the deal.
Yep, absolutely. You got to know if you're safe. That's one of the things that the Red Cross has is, tell people online that you're safe. You can go on there and mark yourself as safe.
Right.
The problem in Puerto Rico was they had no way to get on the internet. There was no internet.
Right.
So the hams provided that conduit for people to actually get a voice out to the mainland.
Right.
To say, here's our situation, here's what we need, bring us supplies, and that was basically the only communication down there. So the amateurs did a great job, and that's another service we provide.
Right. I did want to mention, too, as far as go back to licensing real quick, the Morse code is not required for to start out your license, right?
That's correct.
And that's
now.
been that way for several years now.
Yeah, it has. They dropped the code requirement, Morse code requirement. It just didn't seem to be feasible, you know. It'd been a long time. They used to have that, but you don't have to have Morse code now to get your license.
It's a good thing to learn
It is a good thing to learn.
and to know.
Yeah, it's another form of digital communication. But it was one of the original forms of communication when you first got your license. You worked Morse code.
Right.
That's all you were licensed for.
Right.
But they've dropped that requirement. Still for $40, you can take the test and get your license.
There you go. Again, field day coming up this weekend. Starts at noon on the 23rd. That's Saturday. Then we'll end up at noon on the 24th. Seriously, folks, if you're at all interested or in becoming a ham, or if you just kind of want to see what it's all about, all the remote equipment, or I shouldn't say remote, but pardon me, portable equipment you guys will have out. You can get a radio plugged into a car battery and throw a wire up, and you can be on the air in a matter of minutes. Really.
Sure, absolutely. And we will be working on batteries out there.
Yeah.
We charge them up with a generator, but we'll be working on the battery itself. Right. So we're disconnected from any electrical mains. Yeah. And we've got several antennas we're going to set up, several shelters that will have operating positions. Mm-hmm. We'll be out of the weather, hopefully, knock on wood, that Mother Nature doesn't interfere.
Right,
so,
right.
But anyway, even if it does, we'll still keep going.
Yeah, it'll be fun. Field day. Tom, anything else before we let you go?
I think that's it, JD. Well, I appreciate you guys having us in. Everybody just come out on 23rd and 24th and take a look.
Sounds good. Field day for the, it's nationwide, but the Shiaway Amateur Radio Club out at the Archer Complex south of the what's the
south
name?
Of the Emergency
Management Building.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Sounds good. Tom Ritter from the PIO for the Shiaway Amateur Radio Club. Thanks, Tom. Good to see you.
Yeah. Thanks, JD. I appreciate it.
You betcha. We'll have more on Shine Today coming up. Stay with us.